Welcome back to Sirvalorsax, everybody. Today, we're going to go over what is a particularly difficult part of the saxophone to master. I'm going to show you some tips and some tricks because this part of the saxophone usually causes us some intonation problems, and also it is technically challenging. It's not like the simple layout that we have with essentially the body of the saxophone. Once we start getting into the upper register, the palm keys, that's when we can start to run into intonation and technical problems that can become a bit harder to fix. But before we get into any of that, you guys see this shirt that I'm wearing? I'm just feeling particularly silly, and I got my Vote for Pedro shirt on. I was watching that silly movie, Napoleon Dynamite, which is definitely in my top 20 all-time movies, and I bought this shirt a few years ago. So here, I'm going to do this on alto. This works for alto, tenor, bass, soprano, whatever, but to varying degrees of efficiency. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if you are generally playing your palm keys sharp, this is going to be wonderful for you. If you generally pitch your palm keys flat, this might be a disaster for you. So proceed with caution. Okay, so in order to facilitate the technical aspect of playing the palm keys, we don't always need to actually push all the palm keys like we learn. Like we have our palm D, obviously, but then for palm E flat, we have the D and the E flat key. Sometimes you can just leave the D key off. I do this regularly on every saxophone that I have, but I'm always very aware of the pitch problems that can occur. And typically when you start leaving keys off, things can get flat. Usually, I've just worked it out now to where I can't hear the difference when I play it back. So I'm cool like that. But generally, I only do it on faster passages and definitely not on passages where I have to hold that note for a long time, unless I'm specifically using an effect that can negate the negative intonation aspects. This is mostly meant to facilitate having speed with the palm keys anyway. So let's go through some stuff here. Here's palm D. And now E flat. Okay, so for that high note, let me show you what I'm doing. So you can essentially tone match the regular fingering with the light fingering. And you should invest in tone matching those two together. You can do the same thing with palm E by leaving the D key off. If I'm playing palm E flat with just the E flat key, then I can just kick the side E in order to play that palm E. I can also play a palm E without the E flat key, just playing the palm D and the side E. This, you guys have probably already done it. If you've done that cannonball trill, this is the main trill key. If you have a high F sharp key on your saxophone, which I do on all of mine, wink wink, then you can also use the high F sharp key as a type of auxiliary trill key. And you can start that whole like cannonball trill thing from as low as you can up to F to F sharp trill. I'm not going to do it right now, but yeah, and in short, we can play our palm E with just the D and the side E, leaving off the E flat key. Let's try that. Okay, again, you want to take the time to tone match it and basically play it musically. Don't just cheat, because it can kind of work and then you wind up playing out of tune. Don't do that. Don't do that. I have a lot of alternate fingerings for the palm keys anyway, so I have a lot at my disposal. Okay, another one is palm F. This one can be tricky. Let me go back and forth between the regular fingering and the light fingering, and let's see if you can hear the difference between the two. You can hear the multiphonic start to come out when I leave the E flat key off of the palm F fingering. Let's take a closer look. Okay, so here are the alternate fingerings that you can use to develop some crazy speed with possible intonation sacrifice. There's also a timbre sacrifice that's there, so you have to use it musically and make sure that your intonation isn't terrible. Nothing matters if your intonation is off. This is one of the biggest things that I'm talking about in some upcoming videos that I have for you. So for these fingerings, palm D is going to be the same. Palm E flat, we can leave the D key off, so we'll just play the E flat key by itself. These come in really handy in the way that I teach Altissimo, because around the palm keys, the saxophone actually does not overblow to an octave. It actually overblows to an interval of a flat 9, which is kind of like once you play in the higher register, you're playing in a different key. This is why we do not use the palm keys in the lower register, because they are flat. If the palm keys in the lower register are flat and in tune in the proper register, then that's overblowing to a larger interval than an octave. So moving on, we just did palm E flat. Palm E light can be the palm D with just the side E key, or we can leave off the D, play the E flat key, and the side E for that note. Sometimes you just want it to just grit and grain. Let me see. Something like that. Okay. And then for our palm F, this one is something that I like to do when I'm only playing really, really fast. Our palm F light is exactly like the normal way we play palm F, but we can leave the E flat key off. So it'll be something like a All right, ladies and gentlemen, so if you like this kind of content, you want to support the channel, you can buy me a piece of cake. It's like a Kickstarter, Patreon type of thing where you basically make a donation and I get like a digital piece of cake, and they are delicious. Thank you to the ones who have already bought me one. Also, ladies and gentlemen, obviously I have my Altissimo books for alto and tenor saxophone, along with my Diminished scales book for all musical instruments. And yes, I am hard at work on my saxophone sound development book. I've been putting in 10-15 hours a day on that thing, and I am anticipating that within the next week that should be up for sale. So I want to make sure you guys have a heads up on that. So alrighty, that's all I got for you, so stay tuned. See ya!